This is the plaintiff, Peter Butler Jr. He says he and the defendant were in a relationship, and she owes him $3,000 for a 2018 Nissan Rogue, and she won't pay up. Just because their relationship has now ended doesn't give her the right not to pay him the money she owes. So he's suing. This is the defendant, Anna Weaver. She says the plaintiff had bad credit, so she put his car in her name. And when he started missing payments, she reported the car stolen and it was impounded. She doesn't owe the plaintiff any money, and she thinks the judge will agree. She's accused of messing with an ex. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $8,000 for pain and suffering.
All parties, please raise your right hand. People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Milian is now presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Butler, you're suing your former girlfriend, Ms. Weaver, for $3,000 because, according to you, you had to buy a new car thanks to her shenanigans. Tell me what happened.
Okay, so January of 2021, we met on Facebook, Facebook dating, and basically I was in a verge of moving from Phoenix, but she had a trip plan to go to Las Vegas, and I was like, yeah, sure, I can come. She said, okay, you can stay here and stay at her house. So I stayed at her house. And
she lived where?
On the trip. She lived in Phoenix, Arizona. So we ended up going to the trip. The trip came out fine, and I had to. I was in a transfer status, so I was transferring to Georgia.
Okay, and then
Yes.
what happened?
I got to Georgia around February, like towards the beginning of February, and I was trying to see if I get my kids, if my kids can just stay with me. So I called Anna Weaver to see if she was available to come down.
To do what? Babysit?
To help me.
Were you guys dating or weren't you?
We were like getting to that, I'm gonna say.
So you weren't intimate yet?
No, we were intimate.
Oh,
but
okay.
We weren't.
You weren't in love. You were intimate, but you, okay. So you asked her, will you move from Phoenix so that, okay, where were the children before that?
The children were in Chicago, actually.
With who?
With my mother.
With your mother?
With my mother.
Is the children's mother not in the picture?
She's in and out.
Okay. So you wanted the kids to move to Georgia, but you could only do that if you have a mate. Why? Because logistics or because of a court issue?
Just wanted, because I wanted to raise, I got full custody of them. So I wanted to be able to,
okay,
be
so
in my household.
it wasn't, so you just needed someone because you couldn't do it alone. And so you call her and you tell her, hey, I got an idea. Why don't you move to Georgia?
Yeah, because she said she wanted to move anyway. She said she didn't really like where she was at.
But now, so you picked up and moved to Georgia, Ms. Weaver?
Yes, I did.
And you had a kid yourself. How old is your kid?
8 years old.
So you relocated your kid for a guy you met on Facebook dating how much earlier?
So we met in January, and I ended up moving down there in February, but he had lived with me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was longer than that, and I was going to make fun of you.
Right.
So you literally moved in a few weeks.
Yes, I took a risk.
A risk?
Wow.
No.
That's what it's called?
Is that what it's called? A risk is letting it ride on number 21. It's not moving to Georgia and uprooting your 8-year-old in order to see if it works out with some guy you've known to a few weeks. So how'd that go for you, sweetheart?
It didn't go well at all.
Oh, who knew? We didn't see that coming. So what happened when you relocated over there? What happened?
Everything was fine until the day that we ended up going to a different state. He went for his birthday to, I think it was Vegas. I'm not for sure. He went out of state, and I went out of state to Texas to go visit my friend.
All right, so go on.
So he got an attitude, and he stopped talking to me almost the whole time that I was down in Texas. And I'm like, I still got to come back. I can only stay down here for a little bit. And he basically kept on trying to push it off, like, can you stay down there for another week? So I ended up staying down there for another week. And then when it was time to come back.
Wait, what did he say? Wait, hold on. He says, stay down there for another week because what?
Because of the fact that he had to work. He couldn't pick me up. It was something. It was a couple days or it was a week. I'm not for certain though.
Okay. And what happened? He moved in a different babysitter?
No, what had happened was he was throwing attitude towards me. He was giving me issues. He told me when I got down there that I had to basically get a hotel. So I had to pay for a hotel until the next day for him to be able to pick me up. And when he picked me up, he put me and my kid in danger because he was supposedly tired from working.
So I take it you break up.
So when I got back, I guess he wanted me to move out of state somehow. He had to take care of his grandma. And I'm like, we just moved down here. Like, I left my whole life to move down there and help you out, but also be in a relationship.
Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? After all we've been through together, you've known him 20 minutes. All right. When is he telling you, hey, I got to take care of my grandmother. This isn't working. When does he tell you all that? March? When? What month?
It was
still February.
I believe it was. No, I think it was March.
March. Okay.
It was March.
All right.
Because I didn't come back to Chicago until April.
Okay. When did Chicago get into the mix?
Because of the fact that he told me that I had to go and he was moving, so I had to find a place.
Wait, so now you followed him to Chicago?
No, I'm from Chicago. I have family in Chicago.
Oh. So you end up going back to Chicago. But let's talk about what happens besides uprooting your 8-year-old, uprooting yourself, moving to a new city. You also put a car for him in your name, which is why we're here.
Yeah,
let's talk about that. All right. How long had you known him when you put a car in your name?
Maybe
a month.
A month.
Why would you do this? Were you like head over heels about him?
I thought that I could start something with somebody and it could end up good. You know, that we are both.
Usually you put your toe in the water before you jump in though. And you check the temperature and then you do it slowly or be braced for a shock. It's one or the other, you know? You build.
This was definitely a shock.
Yeah. So tell me about the car, Mr. Butler. What happens there? You have crappy credit?
Yes. At that moment, I had crappy credit.
Okay.
So I went on this site called Carvana. And for me, they was telling me to put down like, what was it, 3,000 or 4,000? But with her, it was saying 600. So
time to ruin her credit? Hey. You haven't done enough?
No.
You got to ruin her credit too?
I wasn't going to ruin her credit.
Well, what happened? So you put down how much on a car?
600.
And then your payments were how much per month?
282.
And then were you paying it?
Yes, I was paying it until the last, when she asked for the car. I was a week and 2 days late.
Okay,
and
now
I got a text message. Oh, sorry.
No, but tell me, that is in what month?
And that's in March. No, April.
Okay,
April,
so how many payments could you have possibly made on time if we're talking about April? When did you buy the car?
February. Sorry.
Had she moved to Georgia yet?
No, we were still in Phoenix at that moment.
Okay, so you got her to put a car in her name when you'd known her how many minutes?
5, maybe.
2 weeks? 3 weeks?
About, I'm gonna say a month.
So you pay February, you pay March, and then in April, you're late. And by now, you guys have split up. And you find out he's late, Ms. Weaver, how?
It comes to my email address of a late payment.
And what happens?
I text him, about paying the bill. You cannot be paying my bills like my car. You got to pay it on time. So it basically, he was like, I'm going to pay it. It's just whatever he's going through. I don't know exact details because it's been a little minute and I've been going through some things, but I don't
What did you say to her, Mr. Butler, and why were you messing with her credit?
I paid the car note the week and 2 days later.
Okay.
Because my pay was different.
All right. And then what happens? Why do you have to run out and buy another car?
Okay, so she kept texting me, bring me my car back now, bring me my car before I report it stolen.
Did you ever tell him to bring you the car? Did you want the car because he wasn't? Yeah. You did?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted my car back because I didn't
Well, it's not your car. Wait. When you say I wanted my car back, you mean you wanted the car. because it had never been your car, right?
And yes, it was my car because it was put in my name.
Now, I know it was put in your name, but were you just waiting for him to be like a day late and $1 short for you to say, I'm repossessing?
No, not at all.
Sounds like you were. But then what you do is you don't repossess because that takes time and effort and research. So what you do instead is you actually report the car stolen, correct?
Correct.
Which is a complete lie because he didn't steal your car. He is not making payments on time, which means you go to court and you either go through repossession to get the car back or you do all kinds of efforts. But it's much faster and easier to mess with them if you just say, I'm reporting it stolen, which is what you threatened to do, and then it's what you did. And then what ends up happening, Mr. Butler?
So after she told me, she called the police, and I said, okay. So that same day, I got my friend that was in Georgia to drive that car, and then I had to buy a car from CarMax the same day, so I could have a car, and
You got your friend from Georgia to drive a car that was reported stolen?
Yeah, but I didn't know it. Actually, at that moment, I didn't know it was reported stolen.
You didn't believe her when she said she was going to do it?
Oh, no. Because I'm like, no, I don't even steal. I don't even want that in my record like that.
Well, no, of course not. But you had somebody else drive the car.
Yeah, while I
Did
bought
you
the
tell
other
that
car.
person,
So
hey, the crazy woman said she was going to report that car stolen, be careful?
Yeah, she knew about it, but we didn't believe that she was actually going to call the police because it wasn't stolen.
Was the person that you had driving the car someone you were dating?
No, that was my friend.
Okay. So she drives the car and she gets stopped in what state?
She gets stopped in Kentucky, actually, Elizabethtown.
And she's stopped there by a police officer who says, this is a stolen car.
Yes, well, she initially got stopped by speeding, but
yeah,
and they just arrested her and put her in jail.
You gotta be kidding
off
me.
a stolen vehicle. Yeah, off a stolen vehicle.
What ended up happening with that case?
Well, she actually passed away because her boyfriend killed her.
Oh my
in
gosh.
Chicago. Probably like a month later. So that's what happened with her. But yeah.
Wow. What ends up happening? The car gets impounded in Kentucky. And how does the car get out of the impound in Kentucky? Because that would mean that Anna has to fly down, has to get to Kentucky and get the car out.
Correct. She went to Kentucky and got the car out, actually.
So who paid to get the car out? Did you have to pay to get the car out, Ms. Weaver?
I did. He did reimburse me for me to go get the car out, but I had to pay gas, 2 vehicles. So the person who drove me down there and then my friend who drove my car back, I had to pay 2 vehicles.
Do you have a license?
No, because I don't have I didn't drive my vehicle back. I had my friend who had a license.
What ended up happening to the vehicle?
What happened to the vehicle was when I had my friend drive my vehicle, somebody crashed into my vehicle, and apparently he didn't put insurance on the vehicle, or it didn't.
Are you talking about in the drive from Kentucky?
No, not the drive to Kentucky. It was, I think, less than a month later.
And the car's totaled and there's no insurance on it, huh?
Correct.
And then was this person supposed to be making the car payments?
No, I was making the car payments on it.
Why are you making car payments for someone else to drive it?
Because of the fact that it's my vehicle at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm not understanding. Who's this guy? Somebody new you're dating?
No, it's my nephew.
Okay. All right. Who's stuck making payments on a car that is dead?
I'm basically stuck with everything.
Now, you are suing her, not for the $600 that you put down on the car, but for $3,000 that you put down on a different car. Why would she have to pay for the $3,000 that you put down on a different car?
I mean, just like I had to go out of my way to pay for a different car when I already had a car, when she made that false police report.
Right.
Put it stolen.
Okay. You have a counterclaim against him for $8,000 for pain and suffering. Explain your counterclaim to me, Ms. Weaver.
So when I moved down to Georgia, I ended up buying TVs. I bought TV stands. I bought beds. I bought bed frames. I've paid food in the crib. Like, I gave him money for a lot of things, let alone towels, washcloths, going back and
I mean,
forth
how
to
many
the store
towels and
for
washcloths
food.
do you think I can go through to figure out who owes who a couple of bucks? It's really about pain and suffering. Your lawsuit is entitled $8,000 for pain and suffering because
Correct.
he did you dirty.
I
but you would have to, right, but
let alone
Yeah, that should be a lesson that you learned on that, because it was ridiculous for you to. I wouldn't care if you were single. I would say, oh, go with the flow. Go out there. Suelte sin vacuna. Out there and do what you want to do. Yeah, I understand. Loose and unvaccinated. Just go do whatever you want to do. But, you have an 8-year-old, and your 8-year-old, I presume, has friends and people in Phoenix. And then all of a sudden you uproot him, put him in a house with 3 other kids and a strange man. It's kind of really crazy on your part. And most of your pain and suffering was caused by your bad decision making, So, no, on your counterclaim, 0. On your claim, Mr. Butler, interestingly, I do agree with you that it was completely inappropriate for her to file a false police report and to claim that the car was stolen. I cannot believe you reported the car stolen when you and I both know it wasn't stolen.
Excuse me, Judge, but what I'm stating
I'm stating is that you have a certain obligation, and your obligation is to go to court and to sue him, which is all kinds of trouble. You didn't want to do it, so you took the way out, which is completely filing a false police report. Just stop. We're done, okay? That is not appropriate, all right? This is one of the risks of putting your name on somebody else's car, okay? It's that they're going to be late on their payments. And you don't even have a right to repossess the car unless it's a significant breach. And a week isn't a significant breach, okay? It isn't. That's not how it works. I'm not going to order you to pay him all of his monthly payments, okay? Because he did get to use the car in those months. But I am going to order you to return the $600 that was the down payment that he put on the car, because you didn't really have a right to even repossess it with a 1 week late. But you most certainly don't have the right to call it stolen and file a stolen police report, which was 100% false. Verdict for the plaintiff on the plaintiff's lawsuit against the defendant, not in the amount that he's asking for, but in the amount of the actual deposit on the car that she was forcing him to return. And on the counterclaim, 0.
So in this tangled web of events, the plaintiff is going to get that $600 back. That's it. The defendant gets nothing from her $8,000 countersuit. Ms. Weaver, this has been a really tough lesson for you. What's going on in your mind right now?
It's not fair. It's not fair.
Well, all I can tell you is you've got to give him the $600 back. The car payments, I presume you're going to have to keep paying those, or your credit's going to really go, it's going to be trashed. Do you understand that? Do you?
Of course.
What have you learned from all of this, if anything?
I've learned a lot not to trust us all.
All right, Mr. Butler, let me ask you something. Don't you feel bad at all of what your events have caused her to go through?
I feel something, but I just feel that, she could have just waited and, everything would have been okay.
I don't know. She was worried about her credit. She'd be a lot better off if you'd never walked into her life. You know that. Much better for her. Probably you too.
Yeah, most likely.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, let me ask you the same question. Have you learned anything from all of this?
Yes.
If so, what?
Not to get no car in nobody's name, and just if it's a higher payment to put down, just put it down and go about your day.
All right. Well, at least you've learned something. Good luck to you.
Yeah.
You're going to get $600 back.
Doug, I got to tell you, this is a case where it looks like a false police report may have been filed. A false police report can not only subject somebody to a civil problem, that is a criminal issue as well. And the person filing a false police report can be prosecuted in some cases for a felony.
What movie or television show most closely depicts the actual proceedings in a court?
We're talking about other than the People's Court, right? Which is, of course, the original. You're going to be surprised at my choice, but I'm going to go with My Cousin Vinny. I mean, I think that even though it's, crazy stuff and people doing madcap things inside the courtroom and outside, the judge is actually a stickler for procedure, and he handles the arraignment like any judge would handle the arraignment. And at trial, he's kind of on the lawyers. He's trying to control the courtroom. He's trying to make sure they're asking the right kinds of questions and generally sticking to the rules of criminal procedure. So just my take. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't watch that many that many TV shows that have to do with exactly what I do all day.
You've had enough of it by the time you walk in the door.
Right,
at the
but
end of the day.
I do read a lot of books that have a lot to do with what I do all day. But yeah, I'm not sure my Cousin Vinny would have been my choice, but it's my favorite movie. So,
all right. Well, very good. Well, I have to give honorable mention or second place to an oldie but goodie. The Three Stooges episode called Disorder in the Court. That's one of my faves.
Why?
It's not quite so realistic.
Why?
Because it's the scene where Curly's got a hat in his hand and he puts his hat on and the bailiff says, take off your hat. And he takes it here and he goes, raise your right hand. Puts the hat back on his head. He goes, take off your hat.